Okay then. So hello and welcome to another Manchester Futurist live event on YouTube. I'm Georgia and I'm your host for this evening. This month, we're joined by Matt Mankins, Amber Case, and Dees Chinia, who will be discussing web monetization, and I will let you all introduce yourselves in a moment. But before we start, we've got a bit of admin to address. Ian, could you change the slide for me, please? My glamorous assistant for the evening. We've got some rules in our code of conduct, which you can see here. Essentially, it's please be nice to each other and give our moderators in the comment section an easy job. So those of you who are wanting to comment, please just, leave us a comment on the YouTube or Twitter, and we'll make sure that your question is read out. So you can get in touch on social media. Next slide, please, Ian. Thank you. And please follow us on Twitter and Facebook for updates on our next event. We've even got LinkedIn now. And so, we've left Meetup and we're focusing our efforts on these platforms. So please give us lots of likes and follows, and you can keep up with what we're doing on there. You can also catch up with all our previous videos on YouTube on this channel. And we realise that we've got a pretty random link at the moment, but once we've got 500 subscribers, which won't be too long, we can change it to our name. And that's a good reason to hit the subscribe button right now. So yeah, without further ado, Matt, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Let me share my screen. All right, great. I assume everyone can see that. Let me know if not. So I'm Matt Mankins. I'm a Mozilla Fellow along with Amber, who will be presenting later. I wanted to start off with some work that I'd been doing, and just a show of hands, if that's possible. You all know what a 404 error is, right? Nod some heads. Yeah, I see a smile, so I'll take that. So the 404 error is when you type in something that the server can't actually find the page. So the New Yorker, which is the company I worked for before Mozilla, is showing you a 404 page right here. And that's a pretty common error message from the client to the server. But what I really wanted to talk about today was the 402 error. And I don't know if anyone knows what the 402 error is. No, doesn't know? All right, somebody must know, but it's payment required. So if you read the HTTP 1.0 spec, it's actually not in the spec. It goes 401 to 403. And then in HTTP 1.1, it says 402 payment required. And then in the discussion about that, it says reserved for future use. And so I'm here to say that it's the future and we should use the 402 error. So what might a 402 error be? Well, here's an example that I put together some years back. It says, this website is supported with advertising. Please disable your ad blocker and reload for free content. We can discuss the merits of that later, but I wanted to really dive into this era of the 402 that might be coming up. And now, why on earth would you want that? And why am I advocating for paying more? I think that this is really the fundamental question about alternative business models for the web. And I think it really comes down to this. The free lunch is almost over. And if we really want to have meaningful change, we have to have a conversation between users and websites about how to pay for and support the content we love. It's not always paying, it's more like supporting. So we've got a lot of different choices right now. There's ads that has supported the web up to this point, but there's subscriptions, passes, tips, memberships. There's lots of different methods, but each of these methods you have to sort of set on a per website basis. And there's really no easy way to globally tell the websites that you're visiting what you want in terms of your monetization preference. And so the only thing that I could really think of was the act of rebellion of installing an ad blocker. And this is really a signal to the JavaScript part of the website, the client part of the website, that tells the website, you know what, I really don't want to support this via ads. But other than that, there actually isn't a way to tell the website what you want. So why isn't it easier? This seems like a fundamental thing. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that it isn't easy because the protocol itself is really just missing a signal to convey that user monetization desire. And it's kind of something that we can fix. So my proposal is that, and this is a little bit technical, but it's pretty easy to understand, is that we add a header to support monetization as a global preference. So in this example, the header that I'm proposing is the accept monetization header. And the way it would work is the user agent, that's the web browser, along with its normal conversation with a web server, sends one more header. And that header is, in this example below, it says accept monetization webmon star q.point8. And we can go into what that means in a moment. And this is really the start of a signal between the client and the server about how the user wants to pay for the content. In this example, the server is responding back, okay, cool. This web page response is actually monetized via web monetization. So where does this come from? I mean, there's actually a whole slew of headers that get sent from client to server that do various things. And rather than just starting from scratch, I chose some that already existed. So there's a whole set of headers that are content negotiation headers that are really trying to have this conversation between the client and the server to figure out what the best client experience should be. So maybe the client is an English speaker, but I bought a laptop in the Netherlands, and so my language for years was Dutch and then English, and so occasionally I would get into these websites that were Dutch, and it was a lot of fun. But the reason for that was because this accept language header was sent from my web browser to the servers, and occasionally a server would pick up on that and then send me content in Dutch. So just like these, accept monetization kind of just follows the same pattern. One of the cool things about this pattern, though, is that it's easy to say what you do want, and it's easy to say that you don't want something. And so this in green ads behavioral is an example of a type of monetization method that I've just kind of invented. But you could imagine a whole taxonomy there of different monetization methods. The star means any provider in the sort of webmon/coil would be an example of that. And then the Q is how the server can organize if there's somebody who supports both web monetization and ads, but they prefer web monetization over ads. The server can do the right thing and choose the right content for the user. So that's cool. We now have web clients talking to a web server, and the web server is able to give back a response that is the exact content that the user wants. But on the other side of this is it's also easy for a server to respond with a 402 status code. And so this is not giving back the thing that the user requested, but kind of an error message. And this is, I think, the biggest opportunity, because I don't think what we really want is another error message. I think what we really want is a conversation. So what if it's not an error message, but this 402 error code starts a conversation about, you've seen this number of our pages over the years. These are the options that we have. I understand that you want to see, or you don't want us to support our content with behavioral ads. Unfortunately, that's the only kind of ads we support. I think that at the moment, our content will be gated from you. And you can then make a choice whether or not you want to go forward with changing your preferences, et cetera. I think we have a few more minutes, so I'll dive a little bit into what this looks like. So in this example, we have a user agent who supports web monetization. It sends a request to the server. The server says, okay, got it. And then the server responds with how the site was monetized. So that's kind of the example we went through before. The more complicated examples are things like what happens when you don't see, when the response isn't as successful. So one of the things that's kind of interesting about status codes is that you can actually return a complete web page that looks like a normal web page, even though the status code says page not found, even though the status code says 402 payment required. And so my previous work at Condé Nast was building the paywalls for Wired, Vanity Fair, and the other Condé brands. And what we actually did is we implemented this exact system. So behind the scenes, there was a header that we set within our CDN that was, we called it accept payment. And then we returned a 402 status code whenever you saw the paywall. So this has kind of been in place on those sites for quite some time. And one of the great things about it is that it actually works with the web. So the caches and all of the intermediaries, if you set the headers correctly, will do the right thing. I think where we go from here is we really have to figure out how to have those conversations. And this is just a very rudimentary error page, but you could imagine more standardized pages so that users start to understand the value because they see the same thing repeatedly. They can build an understanding of how something like web monetization that lives across all sites is actually valuable because they're saying, oh, okay, you know what, I understand. I keep seeing this error. If I do these things, then this is the value that this service is providing me. And let's see. I have 2 minutes, so I'll just go real quick through an example. It's the same thing that we saw before, but it's kind of interesting. I have a custom version of the coil extension that is coded to add these monetization headers. So if you look at my headers, you'll actually see that I'm sending this accept monetization header. And if I go to a page that is looking for web monetization, it says, okay, method found. If I'm going to a page that is looking for ads, it says, oh, you know what? You don't have ads, 402 payment required. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And I think so. We'll have questions at the end, and then we can have like a conversation with everything. So, yeah, Amber, over to you.
Just unmute myself. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. I'll talk with you a little bit about the future of micropayments. Some of this will be familiar from Matt's talk. So thank you, Matt, for teeing that up. I'm going to be focusing a bit on the creator side. So currently, creators have a couple of options for surviving online. And that is either closed marketplaces, where you are technically the product. If Etsy or Instagram or Kickstarter or Facebook or any of these places go down, or Patreon, you don't have access to any of those groups. You are really living and dying by their rules, and they can change those rules at any point in time or just suddenly lose funding. So people have made their whole lives on these. And then there is another version of that, which is the kind of recurring subscription. At the high level, you can work your way into Netflix and have your original indie content streamed there if you're lucky, or you can use Patreon and you can be making videos all the time about how you should support how your patrons should support you and make all of these benefits. And when I talk with creators about these models, they say, hey, look, I'm a dancer. I just want to dance. I don't want to sit there on my computer all day. I just want to produce content and have people support it. And then, of course, we have the classic, the data selling super invasive advertising. I think Signal posted a post recently where they actually got how granular the information that Facebook and Instagram had on you and made a series of ads to be like, you live in this part of New York and you like ferret racing and you're secretly gay, but you don't actually, but no one knows that, but we know that. And it's just like, wow, this is like, it's just excruciating, right? So, and then when we look at places like The Guardian, like you log online and there's almost zero content. This site, there's like, you get to see 3 sentences and the rest of it is just a total nightmare. So let's think about something new. So a lot of times when I see an industry that's just kind of clogged with these very minimal options, it's ripe for, I don't want to call it disruption because I don't even like that word, but it's time for alternatives. And a lot of those times, those alternatives actually started in the 60s or like usually like generations ago, but people forgot about them. I think a lot of people want to make new entrepreneurs. They love to raise money for things like Facebook because it's very exciting to do something that everybody else has done. But it's very hard to do things that people haven't done before. So we're seeing the beginnings right now of people using micropayments for new and exciting ways. And the minute we get into people playing around with them and having a good time, that's when we know like the industry is starting up. So this is an introduction to micropayments. So micropayments are defined traditionally on various sites as just small amounts of money. That amount really varies. It can be between like hundreds of millionths of $1 to $1 or in any currency. And that kind of looks, when you look at that, it's really hard to traditionally charge this online because credit cards take a high processing fee. So how do you enable these micropayments to sponsor what I'd like to call micro moments, right? Not these big events. And so I created this chart that's just about the missing middle. There's this $30 trillion industry. Sorry, I'm using dollars. I'm American, but it's all about recurring and subscription purchases that are large enough on the left to withstand the credit card payments, and medium large transactions that you can use PayPal and Venmo and Apple Pay and all these things for. I'm buying a book online, I'm buying an Etsy article. What about the middle? What about something like a comic chapter or a small news story? I just want to go to a website and click and get the news story for a very small amount of money, or just a blog post, or just reward somebody. And we're seeing this starting to happen on websites like Reddit, where people are excited and they're rewarding people with small rewards or little tokens. So of course, that limit is the processing cost. It costs an average of 45 cents to charge $1. And then we all know now about the 402 payment required. The web, especially NSFNet, was more of like a science-based web. That didn't even allow advertising. Then we had like the traditional web, and it was pretty exciting, but it was like, we're not going to make a protocol for payments. We're just going to reserve this for future use. And unlike email, where I can email you on Gmail and you can get it on Hotmail and vice versa, I can't just Venmo you and you get it on PayPal. It's not interoperable because it's not supported by a protocol. Like emails based on a protocol is not based on the web. So how do we enable micropayments globally in any currency or cryptocurrency without the transaction fees? And so one of the proposed answers to this is making a protocol. So if we have the email layer, if we have a protocol for payments, then we can bypass all of this messy, divided zones that we have right now. So where's that protocol? So Interledger was developed as an open protocol for sending payments across different ledgers. And I think it's really important because it's a kind of understated protocol. I think protocol should be understated, and it's neutral. So it can take anything, it spit anything out, and it's not dependent on any specific thing. So like the internet, how connectors, it can have packets of money, and it's not really tied to any company or blockchain or currency. And so that allows it to scale if needed to being something global. let's say that you have a lot of customers from Nigeria and you want to use the native Naira and they can't pay in that. They're forced to pay in dollars. So what do? They have to go to their bank, transition it into dollars, or it's just kind of a nightmare. And I like to talk to people across the world and be like, what if you could get paid in whatever you wanted and charge whatever you wanted, and people could come to the site and money would transfer. It didn't matter what it was. So with the processing cost on Interledger, it's around 0. So it makes it possible for the first time to stream payments in real time to people. And that's super exciting. So now we can fill in that missing middle with this technology, with this service. And so this is one way to do web monetization. And here's some examples. 99 cents for a song on iTunes. You could have it be even cheaper. You could have it be like, hey, I just want to listen. Here's 5 cents. Or I'm paying you streaming during the time I'm listening to it. Royalties in the music industry, as Matt knows a bit more about, like one of the first examples of micropayments, very difficult to track, had to be manually reported. This is something that we're getting more automated, especially with things like Spotify. And when we look at PayPal, they define micropayments as customers who do things under $12, but with the web monetization API that you can use, micropayments can be a really, really, really tiny fraction of a cent without that large charge. So it opens up some pretty interesting examples. If you want to learn more, you can go to webmonetization.org and it will tell you all of these details. So how this actually works, one of the ways that it has been implemented at this point is through COIL. So what you do is you get your Interledger payment pointer if you're a creator, and this is what it looks like. And then when somebody who supports web monetization visit your site, they just stream little bits of real money proportional to the amount of time spent on the site. And in order to do that, they just have the COIL plugin and a little COIL subscription. So how you monetize it as a creator is really simple. All you need to do is find that Interledger payment pointer, and you can find it through a digital wallet. So right now, I would suggest using the Uphold wallet, and you can find, this is a wallet that natively supports the Interledger protocol. But new things that are happening is that COIL is going to introduce a new wallet, which reduces the need to sign up for an extra wallet as a creator. So this is exciting. So signing up for a digital wallet, you have to do your proof of identity and everything. Here's where you get your payment pointer. So all you need to do is copy that out. And you can decide what you want to get paid in. So I could get paid in gold or silver. I could get paid in, I would like to get paid in like, I don't know, indigenous land tokens that just like give people their land back. That would be cool. That Uphold doesn't support that yet, but I'm hoping in the next couple of years, we'll just be able to like buy people's land back with every transaction. Like that would be cool. Buy the rainforest back and and have a smart contract that prevents it from being cut down and turned into farmland. But you can decide. So in this case, like I decided dollars. And then you just add this to the header of your site. So this is what it looks like. Super straightforward. I'll show you on a variety of sites. NeoCities is a free web host, static HTML. It's really fun to use. It's great for kids. It's kind of a new version of GeoCities. This is what it looks like in there. WordPress, there's actually a plugin that monetizes all the pages on your site, so you don't have to worry about adding this code to every page manually. Webflow, it's in the header, and that does it for your whole site. So that's really straightforward. And then this is what it looks like to get money streaming into your account. So we had the Future of Micropayments conference last year, and I think we got like $20. We monetized the conference about halfway through and added the payment pointer to the website. And that was pretty cool. We didn't have a lot of people attending the conference, but imagine if there were more COIL subscribers attending the conference and there were like 500 of them. That would be plenty of money for people to actually pay their speakers. So that's it. You're monetized. Coil in a nutshell, I guess. But that's the beginning of the story. The rest is that you can do a lot more with web monetization. So if you sign up with a Coil creator account, you can get paid without having to do that. But if you sign up with a Coil creator account and you're a creator, you can automatically monetize your YouTube account. You can upload videos to a site called Cinnamon, which is already web monetized. You can start a Coil blog and get paid passive income from other Coil subscribers. And you can post links on the blog page. And so this becomes really interesting because there are then many more revenue channels that are available to you. This is just some ways to monetize additional content. This has Twitch and YouTube in here. Self-explanatory. There's Twitch support that's automatic. You don't have to do anything at all. This is just already done. And then it gets very interesting because, okay, sure, I can monetize my videos. That's great. But what if 10 people worked on my video? What if 10 people worked on my video game? Well, actually, what you can do is you can have a rev share situation where you can have all of the different people that worked on the video game add their interledger payment pointer, and then you can share them and weight it, right? So you can be like, okay, the photographer actually did 90% of the work, so we're going to weight them 90%, 10% the other people, or we can be like, hey, we really want to benefit this person for this month. Happy birthday. You get all of the revenue this month, and you can change it ad hoc all of the time. This is super cool. You can split it up between 10 payment pointers. There's a new thing called probabilistic revenue sharing. It has a random choice every time a web monetized visitor loads your page. You can do really weird stuff with this. You could have different graphics show up. If the thing is, it's not just about monetizing content, but you can unlock certain different things when people come to a web page, which I'll show later. So you can have all these different payment pointers with a different chance of getting chosen, and the visitor will just pay to the chosen pointer until the page is reloaded or closed. I guess it's kind of a positive roulette for web monetization. So how to support creators online? If you want, you can do this right now. You can go to coil.com, you can become a member, it's $5 a month. And you can download the plugin, the Coil plugin, and you can start to support people with monetized websites. Coil right now is the only provider of micropayments to creators with the web monetization API right now. So it's kind of a demo for Interledger and web monetization. And that's just a reason to kind of use it and see, because you might get some ideas on how you could do something else with it, or even make a competitor to it and like improve and explore the ecosystem. So this is what it looks like to sign up. So the website knows that visitors are paying attention if they have a Coil subscription and the Coil extension. So there's a lot of extensions. Here's the Firefox extension. And here's what it looks like. On my website, if you go there, it will show you Coil is paying. Hooray, this website is web monetized. Very easy to test your code. And here's all the other plugins: Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Brave. And if you're on mobile, there's the very first web monetized native site called Puma Browser. And this is a really cool startup because it actually just seamlessly builds it in. And they also support Handshake, which is a kind of Web3 address technology. They're really doing some interesting stuff, and they're a very small, fun team. So I look forward to seeing what they're doing. Let me just check on time here. I might go through like 1 or 2 examples, but then I think maybe my 15 minutes are up, or maybe I can go a little bit more. So one of the biggest uses of web monetization is an alternative to ads. So TechDirt uses this. If you have a Coil account and the extension, you won't see any ads on the site, which is so nice. If you don't have that, you'll see the ads. Pitchfork is actually web monetized. So if you go to this music site, you just contribute money to the site. This is my favorite example. I actually play this game sometimes just to like calm down. It's called Sushi Party. You are a snake, you eat sushi, you get larger. You might be able to eat other snakes if they run into your tail. It's very, very compelling, but it turns off all the ads and gives you like extra content every 5 minutes of playtime if you have a Coil account. So normally when you go and hang out with a game online, it's awful, but instead it can be a nice, quiet experience. Other things you can do, secret blog posts, bonus track links, bonus game levels, more in-game life, secret member-only areas, special suiting or costumes, pretty much anything you want to do, you can enable with this clever plugin. Also, Imager, you get bonus content, ad-free browsing. A lot of Redditors really enjoy this because Imager is pretty much half the browsing experience at this point on Reddit. There are now social networks that are starting to monetize posts and add in web monetization. So MG Social supports videos, MP3s, polls, images, and text. And you can tip XRP via Zoom, which is just things that they're experimenting with. I'm very excited that people are working on these things. This is how you implement it. It just says, if monetization, unhide exclusive content. Just use JavaScript. That's all you do. So the future, there's a great video that you can watch, this lightning talk about how we can improve the whole system. I would suggest that. More providers beyond Coil. If you're inspired, you should make one because it will help enrich the ecosystem. Paying for Coil is US dollar only. Not great. We need to expand that. So if somebody wants to make another version, just make one, please. Or push Coil to do more than just the US. Web monetization and micropayments. Micropayments are catching on again. Web monetization is kind of a mouthful. If somebody is very good with words and can suggest a smoother name that's journalist friendly, please do, because it would be a lot nicer. I use WM. That's still like a zillion syllables. There's a suggestion of web multipass. I don't even know if that's like copyrighted. Or greater brand adoption. So like I want a Coil pass that gives me access to Wikimedia and PBS and NPR and like BBC and like a zillion other things in network. That would be super cool. But we don't yet have that yet. This is still really early. More hackathons. Hope to see more of those. So, you know, these really small changes that we're seeing right now are really powerful. Just the smallest atoms shifting in our experience of the web, as you know, 10 years later can become quite large. It doesn't take that much to create a giant shift over time. And if something is really small like this, it has an even larger potential if people start to play. So I might end there. If you want to learn more about weird history, Ted Nelson originally coined the term micropayment in 1960 and has been thinking about this for a really long time. But I think I'm going to call to action, think bigger. If you want to learn more, I put some links in here. I guess you can just pause this replay if you want to see them. The next thing that's happening is called the Future of the Browser Conference, where we'll be talking about this. And if you're interested in using Introlecture, you should apply for a grant for the web. It's a $100 million fund to boost open, fair, and inclusive standards in innovation and web monetization. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amber. That was excellent. And thank you very much, Matt. So there's a million questions that I had. So let's kick off. I mean, the first thing I wanted to ask was, you could monetize YouTube? Question mark? Is that true?
Geez, is that true?
That is true. Like on your Coil, if you have a Coil account, obviously, if you're a creator, you are not forced to, in any way, shape, or form, have a Coil account. You just have to adopt a web standard, which is how web standards should work. But if you do have a Coil account, in your Coil settings, you can link up your YouTube account to it. Yes.
Wow. Okay, so I think we'll start doing that for futures, I think. What do you think, Ahmed?
No, absolutely, yeah.
So,
go ahead. No, go ahead, Ian.
So the next one was, with the browser plugins, there was one that was missing, and that seemed to be Safari, or maybe I'm wrong. I'm not in the Mac world, so it looked like Safari was not included. Is there a reason behind that, or?
So I'll take that unless any of you have that. Web or Safari WebKit-based browser has only recently allowed for extensions or add-ons, like very recent, and it is patchy at best. So there is a working prototype of a Webmonetization or coil extension for Safari, but it is still rather broken because getting the right support and getting it live is a bit more problematic than it should be. So it's ready, and it's only recent in one of the latest Mac OS updates.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why it just wasn't there. The concept of an extension.
There is one though that Amber didn't include that needs to update her slide, which is Samsung Internet. Samsung Internet now has.
Oh yeah, that just came out. Yeah.
And Samsung Internet in the mobile browser space is rather huge.
Yeah. As I didn't know about Safari, so because I'm not a Mac user, so I assumed that they all have plugins. But thank you very much for that. And the Samsung Internet one sounds great because lots of people use Samsungs and obviously just browse straight away on their phone. So, so I also wanted to ask. I know we kind of tied this all up as like Webmonetization and micropayments and sort of things that Matt was talking about when it comes to changing the header, the HTTP headers. How close do you think, or what would it take to make what you're suggesting actually become a real possibility?
Well, it's certainly a possibility today. The challenge is getting it from possibility into production. And so, there's a W3 open community group that anyone can put a proposal up. And so that's sort of my next step here is to document the proposal and put it up and get feedback. I think the web monetization standard went through this route, and it's currently being reviewed. I think standards there's two types. There's a living standard, which is something that the community itself is sort of constantly evolving. And then there's sort of the codified standard, and this tends to lag behind the living standard. So I think that it's a long route, but I think what my motivation here is to open up people's to have a conversation about how do we want to do this and where does it belong architecturally? Does it belong in the browser? Should the browser, aka the user agent, do more for us? In some ways I'm just being provocative, but in other ways it's a serious request.
I think it's interesting because I know that we've talked, and this probably comes nicely into the conference that Amber's about to run, but the kind of the future of the browser, and obviously we're the futurists, so that notion of the browser being more than just a thing that you just look through, it suddenly becomes the place where you store your money, or you separate them. Maybe you have the browser bit which just does the interfacing with the web, and then there's other components that talk to the browser. I was wondering if there was an idea, or that seems to be becoming more clearer with the work that you're all doing.
Who wants to take that? Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that it's prior to sort of this engagement, I was a user of the web, and I created web apps, and I kind of didn't think much about the browser. And one of the things that this experience has led me to is to an understanding that innovation in the web browser has slowed down dramatically. And I kind of look back at the browser wars and IE, and how IE wanted to take the standard in a different direction. And And then that caused ultra standardization and things to slow down. And I think it had some good effects because everyone sort of, you can write for the web now. You don't have to write for IE version 6. But it had some bad things too, which is that innovation itself, is relegated to extensions or to creating a completely new browser. So, the future of the browser, I think somebody's going to come along and leapfrog the current players, and you see that already.
I mean, historically, Ian, you'll know this, like London Web Standards used to run Future of the Browser for many years at Ravensbourne. And historically, everyone on the guest panel or guest list was, myself included, either Firefox, Chrome, or Opera at the time with Dan Mills and Bruce Lawson and those sorts of folks. And that's changing, right? Like, today it's going to be Puma Browser. I think Amber's going to showcase some of these folks right at the future of browsers. Puma Browser, Insight Browser, the browser company that's now getting huge VC money, Flow Browser out in Cambridge. And those are still the traditional, like, what we think a browser is, a URL bar, file menu, bookmarks, etc. There are people that are going way beyond that. And I think we're stuck in, that's what a browser should be. Like, if you look at the Rome researchers of the world and Athens and Memex style note-taking services, they all becoming browsers. Dom Laker in original Sparrow founder and Stuart founder has now started a thing called BMAP, which is just learning as you browse around, but it's not a browser, it's an application, right? It's a Mac OS app. There are lots of interesting, Mighty Browser built on top of Chrome, right? All of this stuff, like, browsers are going to change dramatically, and most of us are just stuck in it's Firefox or Chrome or Safari, and I think that's where the big shakeup's going to be.
I had not heard of most of those, so I'm very excited about all of this. Ahmed, do you want to ask a question?
Firstly, thank you all to introduce me to this world. I think Ian mentioned web monetization a few months ago, and I simply didn't get it. And you've really opened my eyes today. And it's kind of a privilege to know that this feels like a blindingly obvious direction of where the web's going. And I suppose my first question is probably particularly to Amber. What's your elevator pitch to how to get people thinking about web monetization? It feels, as you were going through the presentations, that it's still stuck in the kind of working out the technology weeds here. So what's that? How are you communicating to perhaps non-technological people? And then secondly, we're talking about money. So money means trust. How do you get people to trust Coil and web monetization as a method?
Okay, great. I'll take your first question first, which is, I'm trained as an anthropologist, so the first thing that I do is find the people that have had success and to find out the words that they used. So I've been interviewing Grant for the Web members that have implemented this across a variety of creative communities. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback was not to call it a technology, but to call Coil a service, to call web monetization a service. Sign up for Etsy. It's a service that helps you sell your stuff. Sign up for PayPal. It's a way to pay money. It's a service that allows you to pay people money, right? When you take it from the idea of technology, which most people think of as, when they grow up, it's like a VCR and like 500 cables behind the scenes, or, if you hit one button wrong on the config process on your, and it breaks, right? But if you say a service, there's a US Postal Service, there's a little bit more compassion for when things fail, right? It's like, it's a laundry service, it's a service industry. Well, it's got to work at least most of the time. Like, I have had a service when I have eaten a hamburger, right? So just that, all words have inherent aesthetics, and getting the aesthetics right through the words can rapidly change. So that's the first thing that I've heard as really good feedback is that artists really want multiple new monetization opportunities. Many artists, especially the dancer that I just talked to, based in Belgium, she's like, look, I don't want to be at my computer all the time. I want to be a dancer. I don't want to become an influencer sponsored by ads on Instagram and then have to go and learn a whole other platform when that shuts down, or when I've messed with the terms of service because there was something that they didn't like, or there was an auto bot that banned me and I couldn't get my account back and I've lost my way of living. what if I could just make my content, right? So people are primed for it. People don't necessarily know about it. If we, through Grant for the Web, let more people know about it, have more success stories, have a site, I think Matt is working on this, web monetization patterns. Don't use the word web monetization, make a friendlier, weirder word, but let either journalists or creators make that word for you, multipass, whatever it is. So number one is the words. Number two is the outreach. I think the outreach is going reasonably well. Number three, writing essays about all the different cool things that can happen, so that people have a refreshing, they have something refreshing to write about. Journalists are bored about writing the same things again and again. What if you can work with them to write about something that is new and somewhat forgotten, and have personal stories? So that's like the last part. It's like personal human scale stories really counter something that is seen as technical. And Coil is Coil. Like, there could be more competitors to Coil. And I think it's necessary to have a full ecosystem of people experimenting and playing. And then I guess number four is just internationalization, more parties. And maybe five is like more of the multipass approach where you get your roll up, except instead of you going to Hulu and getting your various networks or whatever, you go to Coil and you have access to lots of different stuff that you really want. And you could also like choose different plans. Like, in my opinion, those are some of the things that can be worked on. I think right now, slowly, everything's being worked on, as well as the new wallet, which, Deez, I don't know how much I can say about that.
You can also do an exclusive if you want to right now.
Deez, can I?
No, there aren't any exclusives. I mean,
not an exclusive, but can I say anything about the wallet?
The ecosystem needs more wallets, and we're working on the infrastructure pieces to make that possible and make sure that is a, in lights of standards and protocols, an open source project, right, where everyone can contribute to it via a community as opposed to run by a single group of people.
Cool.
Yeah, totally.
That sounds really exciting. I was hoping for an exclusive, but I was pushing for exclusive.
I wish we'd have to do a little bit more. But if you come to the Future of the Browser conference, there will be an announcement.
I'll be there. I will be there.
Hopefully, without this cat here.
So one of the questions around Coil in particular, and I have a proposal for a name, which is Webmon, which I always write because it's just a lot easier. Especially also it avoids the American Z and the English S. But
you can use the letter Ian. You can make it web mode, which is what I do.
Oh yeah, and that doesn't lead nicely to I know what Venmo is, but for everyone else that doesn't know what Venmo is, because it seems to be a very American thing. What is it really quickly, just so that it's clear?
It's basically PayPal with less steps and a better user interface. It allows you to really quickly pay somebody. So if you're at if you're at a venue, like for an underground noise show or something, there's like a little thing that says Cash App or like Venmo, with like a couple letters, you can pay somebody. It's like super fast.
I think you could have paid Joe Biden as well until a couple of weeks ago, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Wasn't he unsecure or something? Like, I can't. Am I making the story up?
I think his number was public or something like that, so you could see, because Venmo as default is public.
Yeah. He paid his grandchildren in Venmo, and then that sort of led to everything.
This is the problem with Venmo. So it's by default open. It doesn't tell you the amount, but it does tell you who paid unless you make it private. So I always check the private. But there's no way to default it to private. I don't think. Maybe there is. But yeah, that's kind of like the social payments. Most people, when they pay somebody else, they use emojis for what it was. So like if somebody bought you a shirt, you'll use the short emoji. And it's really cool to actually look at all of the shorthand language that everybody has.
So this leads nicely into questions following on from what Ahmed was talking about. Kind of how do you make this popular, because I could see the advantages when I first heard about it from Deez, I was like, yeah, okay. And then And then later on, he kind of talked to me about it again. I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And now I'm seeing more and more examples. So, for example, I just set up a mix site, and I was like, oh, I can monetize every single mix, easily. And it's stuff like that. It's like, but what's the thing that would work on the other end? Which is, why would people want to install an extension, for example?
I mean, this is sort of the billion-dollar question. One reason is because they have to, and I know that that's like a non-obvious thing, but that is the motivation behind some of my work with the 402. Another reason is that it just makes sense, and so I think that you'll find that as we go, there'll be more use cases that will be more compelling and will just be a better fit, rather than just trying to take something that we have today and then web monetize it. Natively built things that are built on top of Interledger will provide just dramatically different ways of transferring value.
The other part is just the friction, right? Who wants to go to one website and Patreon someone, and the next website and Ko-fi someone, and the next website and buy me a coffee, and the next website and do something else, right? Like, just, I want to surf the web. And if I hit a web page that's adopting a web standard and they're creating good content, and the content is being determined whether it's good or not by the time I'm spending or the actions that I'm doing on that site, then I'm okay to stream money to them. And maybe they give me some benefits, right? Like some extra content, remove ads, remove tracking, other things that make my user experience and my performance better on that site. Thank you very much. Okay, and then the other part is like, you just need top URLs using it, right? Like if Wikimedia was using, like if you ask most people, which site would you support on the web? Almost everyone, 99 out of 100 people say Wikimedia. If Wikimedia tomorrow was supporting web monetization, a lot of people would want to give back to Wikimedia, and then they'll realize when they suddenly ended up on DJ Italics WebMix that their extension also lit up. That would be a nice warm fuzzy feeling, right? Because they didn't have to think about it. They didn't visit Ian's site just because he was using this thing. They just got there because it was a mix they wanted to listen to. And ultimately, you get away, that's why the standards work is important. You get away from the extension. There's no need for an extension. The APIs are natively built into browsers, however they turn out to be going forward. And then there's no need for an extension. But to make this work today, to push the boundaries, you have to have an extension or an add-on.
I have to, sorry, go on, Ahmed.
It's on a kind of, is there a concern? It's probably too early, but I do want to ask it, that if people put their content behind some sort of web monetization, they don't allow for, even seeing a blog post, for instance, or you might only see like a paragraph or so, that again, you actually might be driving people to the, an ad funded website, because, I know you've got to scroll down, it takes all your data and nothing's free there, but at least all the content can be shown. Is there that concern that or is it still a bit too early for this?
So it would depend on how, sorry, I'll let Amber go as well. It will depend on how the end content owner decides what they decide to do, right?
Yeah.
If they decide to give you 3/4 of a paragraph and leave the kicker behind a so-called paywall, then that's probably a bad experience, and most people will not visit that content, right? It's as simple as that. And then the good content will filter to the top, right? And so the best scenario is like everything is available for everyone, but if you're a member of one of these services, you get a little bit more, right? So, for example, on Imager Emerald, you get to see everything, but if you're a Coil member, they remove ads. And they give you a few emoji, or they call them accolades, that no one else can get to, right? So everyone gets the thumbs up, the happy face, the smiley face, what have you. But if you're a Coil member, you get a burrito and a slice of pizza, right? And when Ian sees this post on Imager, and he's like, that's cool. Like, how come I don't have the burrito emoji? Well, if you want the burrito emoji, you could also get the burrito emoji and get ad-free usage of Imager, but become a member and give us back, right, for the content we provide.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yes, it is up to the content provider, right? I think it's, it's alongside, right? Like if you want to throw all these ads up on your site and then you want to use web monetization as a demo and people pay and they come through, like that, that could be a new option. But I also think that having a pattern library of like good user experience for this would be really nice. Be like, if you're going to implement web monetization on your site, you can keep your ads, that's fine. But here's how to kindly tell somebody like, this would be better without ads. Like you scroll down the page and suddenly the ads dissolve and get coded by like a nice overlay of blue. And it says like, this could be your experience, become web monetized, right? And just like make it nice. So there's just like new web animations and things that can be done. I also, I don't advocate for people to do the 3-paragraph and remove and have the kicker. Like that's just like, that's awful, dark, like bad UX patterns, right? What I really like, there's this woman, she has a thing called Yoga with Adrian. It's a free series on YouTube. Okay, so she has this Australian cattle dog that hangs out with her and she does really goofy yoga exercises that are non-standard. So a lot of people in like the dance community and people that I know in the creator community, they're like, we all follow this thing. It's like, there's no ads. There's this free series on YouTube. It's like, how does this person make money? It's like, well, they gave away a lot of free content, but there's all this other stuff that you can do and it works out. But imagine if she had web monetized that, right? That would be very interesting, right? Because web monetizing a 40-minute yoga routine is like a pretty decent thing to do, right? You want to make compelling content that people watch all the way through, share with their friends, and give it away for free, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunities as long as people don't look at the same models. It's kind of like when we get new phones or whatever, when the phone first came out, like all of the icons were like skeuomorphs, or like when you go online to some meeting software and you're dropped into a virtual office. It's like, no, this is virtual. Like make it anything you want. Like stop trying to make last generation's same user interfaces. Like the phone was interesting. The iPhone was interesting because it dissolved the user interface and you could have it be anything. And so the real killer app for that was honestly the fart app that you could, like the whoopee cushion app, you could press a button and make a fart sound. That was the best demo for a new generation of developers who at the time, you could be 13 years old, write 5 lines of code or copy paste them, put a graphic on and release this thing into the app store and either put ads on it or charge for it and make money. And these people, when they grow up and worked at Facebook and things like that, like this is where their intro. So having these fun, goofy ways for people to get in that aren't based on the last generation of interfaces. And we really say like, what new, unique, fun, cool ways that can we interact with the environment with these new tools? Then I think we're on the right direction versus the scarcity mindset. Like, let's just hide all the content and have a bad time. Like the future of the web should be wonderful and harmonious and informative and kind and supportive. And I think we can do all of those things.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to add on that I think that it's early days for this and that we haven't really been creative enough about how we might do it. So as an example, rather than a paywall, what if we had a communal wall, which was a site saying that 5% or some percentage of the traffic needed to have a web monetization pass. And as long as the traffic was above that threshold, it was free for everyone. But as soon as the site no longer is 5%, then it's going to put up a wall that says, you know what, we really need to support our site. Please enable your ad blocker. Please get a web monetization pass because we're all in this together. So I think, patterns like that are going to emerge.
I was going to ask, actually, I know we're running out of time, but I was dying to ask. I'd never seen the rev share. First thing is this, so a lot of people might recognize some of this stuff from kind of DLT, distributed ledger technology, and also is the rev share basically a smart contract?
I think there's different ways that can be implemented. So there's one way that is implemented with a smart contract by Ike from Vivid, I think. I can get that link, but basically what they do is they put a smart contract together, and then there's a call to a backend to choose, dynamically do that payment pointer. I think it's also early days with these kind of things that we're going to figure out what's the easiest friction-free experience for distributing revenue. And I actually think that there's a lot that can be done here to distribute payment to all the people that are involved in the creation of a web page or in creation of any kind of content. I support the attribution economy. That's everyone, high five to Amber and Dees and Ian and everyone else. This is actually what we naturally do. And so why can't we get paid the same way?
Just to finish up, Tyler asked, and it's probably a good one to finish up with Amber. Can you talk more about the future of the browser conference? Yeah, we'll end on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll just screen share and show you a little bit. So every once in a while, I like to make a kind of fairly undecorated underground looking conference so that not that many people show up unless you're really interested. And the purpose of this is so that we can get really different people in the room. So we have our schedule. We've just got a bunch of different people talking about different things. So like I'll be talking with Scott Jensen, who did a lot of Chrome browser and the Apple interface guidelines on like Web 2 to Web 3 and like how what he learned could be applied or like tips for the next generation. Self-expression in digital media. We have Uchi from Coil talking about the next billion people and what that's going to be like online. Ian Forrester is going to be, we'll show one of the videos from BBC and then there'll be a Q&A.
That's a different Ian Forrester, right?
Yeah, different Ian Forrester. And we'll have rewarding creatives with Unlock Protocol, which is a way to lock your content online, and it's NFT for memberships. And then we'll have Puma browser with Handshake and new web protocols and web monetization. And then we have a ton of lightning talks from people doing things like NF Trees, which actually buys and maintains forests by purchasing NFTs, to a bunch of different artists, Rescue Trust, and creative supporters, discovery engines. We have Dietrich from Protocol Labs /IPFS talking about subverting the dominant metaphor. Not sure yet, excited. We have Ilya, who's talking about fixing the save page as command on the web. We have a very interesting talk about the future of the browser becoming a time machine for humanity. And yeah, we have a bunch of different stuff, and then we'll have a Mozilla Hubs hangout. So in between, we'll probably have some breakouts and some one-on-one sessions. And yeah, please come. The whole purpose of this is honestly to make the talks available online afterwards as an archive. And so that people who weren't there, sometimes it takes a year for people to like get on board, and they'll want to be able to go and be able to participate, and then be excited. It'd be great to have a Skittish hangout. That's a new web monetized platform by Andy Bayo that's supported by Grant for the Web. I would not mind doing that. Maybe I can. I think Andy's still working on it. I'm talking with him on Memorial Day. But this is a platform where instead of being a human, you can be an animal and walk around to different zones. What a relief, instead of having a corporate experience. So excited to see where that goes. Please come to the conference. Oh, it's $10 for a ticket. It's pretty cheap. And it takes multiple currencies. If it doesn't, let me know. Contact me and I'll get you a pass.
So that is amazing. I also realized that we never got to introduce Dees. So Dees, if you got a quick, like, one line about yourself, then that might be really useful.
It's not that important. I'm Dees. I'm in London. I'm a troublemaker. I'm involved in web monetization, Interledger Protocol, web standards, and I happen to co-create Grant for the Web. There you go.
Thank you. And now the excellent Georgia.
Thanks for that, guys. That's been So as someone who knew very little about this topic coming into like hearing these talks tonight, it's been really great to sort of, learn more about it and, really get stuck in. And thanks to Ian and Ahmed for the conversation and the questions that they're asking you, because they're much more qualified than I am in this realm. So yeah, for those of you listening at home, thank you. And thank you to those who've spoken today. And if you would like to join us next month, we'll be here, same place, same time, on June the 17th, when we'll be talking about African and Afro futures with Adafe Onaheimer. I nearly got it right. But yeah, so we'll be here talking about Afro futures. And yeah, thanks again to those who've spoken today. And we'll post on the blog about extra links and things, so reading. So if you guys have any like key readings or anything like that you think, apart from your own books, that you think is, would be great for other people to see and learn about this further, then yeah, please let us know. So yeah, thank you again, and hope to see you soon in real life. And I think tonight's been a great thing about what happens when you're on Zoom. We've had children in the background, we've had cats, you've had everything. So yeah, we've all done a really good job based on, all these things happening.